back here again on the Business Part with a segment on trends analysis. It's your host, Tony Casino. Our topic for this episode is on global IT for the Philippine market. And with us is the principal from Algeo Consulting from New York, none other than Mr. Karnik Mission. And what we have been discussing earlier, we talked about Hadoop, Java, Facebook, Twitter. What does it put all together? Well, we'll know more as we proceed with this discussion. So you mentioned earlier, Karnik, that the gap is wide and you got all these tools is available like Hadoop, Java. How do you narrow down the divide? Is there enough people that could run these systems using this type of software tools?
Well, currently they're not. And even though some of these tools become more of a larger players, there will be less and less people that actually will be able to support those. One of the ways that we're trying to address that particular need is by putting in specific and core learning for the foundations of those products. So this way, you may not become a full-fledged Java developer, but you have the foundations that actually will springboard you into making sure that you're able to support.
Well, the Philippines offer quite a number of computer schools in the country. In fact, based on statistics shared by the record, we have enrollment as high as about 250,000 to 300,000 freshmen coming in, and of them, about 55,000 as the last year has graduated having a degrees in IT and computer science. Would that be sufficient, the kind of education that our systems provided our students, our Filipinos?
It's sufficient to become a foundation for understanding IT, but you have to have the specific core data skills. For example, you can have somebody who knows Java, but the spur or the side shoot of Java that is to use for larger projects such as Facebook, such as Google, they require specialized sections of Java that is not being taught. You taught the foundation, but at that point, you're asking the companies to actually train them for the next 6 to 12 to 18 months to become at least the user of the offshoot of that Java. We are taking that down to about a month and a half. By providing some of it to a point that actually says you'll learn the foundations of Java, but we are going to narrow it down to the specific skills that are needed to be able to address the master data management, the enterprise data structures, to where you can actually become productive in a shorter amount of time.
What business model are you looking at? How do you plan to deliver this learning process that you're talking about?
Basically, there's a couple of models, but the initial one is going to the schools, and with the schools partnering up in the 4th year to be able to provide it via e-learning. So now you have a specific targeted audience that once they graduate out of college, then they have that particular skill, not to become the next Sergey Brin, if you will, or somebody who's running Google or but somebody who can say, now I have a good footing, and in a short amount of time, based on what I know, I can become more productive and I can add value to that project, which is what companies are looking for.
Right. But the likes of, let's say, Sergey and Mark Zuckerberg, when they started Google and Facebook, they did it in the campus.
Right. They did it in the campus. They had the support and nurturing of the education system. Even though the education system didn't understand
what they were doing,
what they were going to accomplish, it was way beyond their knowledge. But they knew that both Mark and Sergey had the tenacity. Just a little bit of it. The company Yahoo, the way that it came about is because 2 of the founders of Yahoo, they were inside a house, and the father of one of them came and he says, "What are you 2 Yahoos doing?" The rest is history. But they had drive, they had passion, they had I couldn't even say they had a vision, because nobody envisions how big it would get until it begins to take off. But you had the passion to do this, which is some of the things that the schools currently have. Their students have that bright-eyed, if you give me an opportunity, I will make the best of it. So that's where we're starting off with the delivery. The second part of it would be to the general public. But once we get more and more traction into the process of how it's done, then we can continuously improve on it and then offer it to the general public.
Yeah, but wouldn't, in the Philippines, would have the same Sergey or Mark Zuckerberg come out from our campuses, just like what they had in the U.S.? Or is that we don't have that type of curriculum that you have there in the U.S. that intends to be brought here in the Philippines?
Well, I mean, the curriculum can be one, but it's more like a drive, if you will. If you encourage and you nurture, you mentioned earlier about nature and you know, farming. You put a seed into the ground, you give it water, you nurture it, you cultivate it, you see the tree grow, and I can guarantee you that tree will bear fruit, really, really nice fruit.
Okay.
You don't nurture it and you don't give it water, don't expect much.
But you mentioned that you have this component for e-learning.
Correct.
All right, for the seniors. Wouldn't that be available currently in the schools today here in the Philippines?
We are beginning a couple of programs just to ensure that we have a process into place, make sure that we have a repetitive process. Our process has to be able to be repetitive, it has to be consistent, it has to produce very, very focused folks to go into the market. So the pilot programs will encourage, they'll see results, and then from there it can be expanded into within the schools to different classes, and even go into the junior year. The key, the absolute key to the success of the Philippines IT market is to be able to come up with resources that actually encourage and challenge people's minds, and those students will be the ones that actually do it.
Okay. Aside from the students, have you brought this to the attention of our government agencies that's administering this sector, like the Commission on Higher Education?
Yes.
Or the technical? What could you tell us about your encounter with the Commission on Higher Education?
Both Ched and Testa were very upbeat about the pilot programs. They encouraged us to continue to explore even other universities and other areas. Go across section. It really doesn't matter whether you're one university, whether you're public or whether you're private.
Right.
The requirements for a program like this are fairly simple. Be driven, want, be hungry, and you will succeed.
Okay.
So those are the things, and they've encouraged it, they support it. In fact, we've spoken to several people. This is a project that started approximately a year ago.
Oh, very recent.
Through discussions, just to see exactly what it is that can be done to improve.
Okay.
The previous engagements I had here with the technology sector also demonstrated that there was not enough IT people to support the...
You attended a software convention quite recently. What was the feedback that you got from that software convention?
I thought I was unique when I said I didn't have enough resources, but I quickly found out is that 99% of the questions that came out of each and every one of the areas was about lack of resources or lack of knowledgeable resources.
Human resources?
Human resources.
Not technology, not the hardware.
So human resources. Okay. If I can quote one gentleman who said, if you find me 5 people that know Java, I will surround them and I can increase the team here to about 50. But they couldn't even find 5 that fit for the area. One gentleman who was from Australia pretty much said that we're going to either continue to grow or sooner rather than later, if we don't find the appropriate resources, we have to run a business. We're going to have to look elsewhere.
So it's not only the U.S. looking for programs, it's even Java. Have you tried other countries to look for these resources, like India or China or even in South America or in Africa?
The larger the population, there's a better chance of at least finding. We were focused on the Philippines, primarily because we believe that there is a good growth, and the experiences that I've seen, at least from some of the people in the Philippines, pretty much half of the interviews over. They are passionate about it. They stay with you. They don't want to let you fail. So those are the things, those are the traits that we look for in terms of how do we staff our projects.
But you also have interviews with other nationalities.
Correct.
Which are?
India, Singapore we've had.
Okay.
We haven't had with China yet.
Okay.
Even in the U.S., the knowledge is there, but as a managing director from one of the big financial institutions told me, he says finding them is like gold. So
even in the U.S.
Even in the U.S.
What's the impression that you have about the Indian workers, the Indian human resource?
There's a huge number of resources, but because when they are tapped by some of the larger BPOs, such as Infosys or TCS, they are put into positions that are specific to that particular client. Now, as new technologies grow, they are, as they use the word, pigeonholed into it.
So there's sort of put in a harness. They cannot.
Right.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is, instead of teaching people Java proper, we're just putting together the foundations, the really basic core, that no matter where they go, whether the client A has open source with Java or they have something different project with JavaScript, or then it will become easy for them to move.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned about JavaScripts, and I believe we had a guest here who was handling on cybersecurity. And one of the things that are the primary attacks of viruses and cybersecurity, besides the data which they get that information to steal, like identity theft, is to penetrate into those databases through what they call cross-site scripting or JavaScripts.
Correct.
So Java can also use as an evil tool.
True.
All right. Now, how beneficial would that be if you have trained a lot of people to understand how Java works? How do you secure that?
Well, within the Java programming languages, proper programming is key. Okay. So when you're developing it, if you're developing just the basics, then you open yourself up to those threats.
Okay.
But if you go into better Java development and scripting and understanding what does it do in application development, in software development, what you do is you start the application, and after you finish it, you clean up, as they call it.
Okay.
A lot of times you don't clean up, and when you don't clean up, then it causes memory leaks and all sorts of things that actually impact the application. You don't know it in the beginning, but as the application increases, those happen. Proper programming is taught to be able to ensure that those kind of threats are minimized.
Okay. And this learning that you have, this e-learning that you have on Java, was that being recognized or certified by a certain body? Or, as you said, you started this about a year ago. So what's the status now, given its 1 year's performance?
Well, these are classes that are certified by their developers, which is Sun Microsystems for Java, and by Oracle.
Okay.
So what they recognized is that although you can learn Java in 3 years, the basic fundamentals and core is what you need, and then from that point on, you can evolve into different areas.
I see. Then you can just take any additional
Correct.
upgrades and updates.
And the certification doesn't indicate that you're, again, become the next guru of Java. It indicates that you will be able to become productive and start, and you have the basic core fundamentals to be able to become productive and start programming.
Okay. What are your demands? What are your expectations from this venture that you're pursuing here in the Philippine market?
Our goal basically is to start with the pilot, demonstrate capability, expand into the colleges in different areas, but to provide the market with the proper springboard into the market, with the proper tools from these students that they will become productive.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the intent is to make sure that the companies who have been saying, if you give me 5 people, I can run a project, not to have those people make those comments anymore.
Okay.
Companies, large companies who are based here, then the pressures of finding the qualified resources will decrease. And the reason it will decrease is because you have now more resources to be able to choose.
Yeah. Could you cite some companies that would probably have such a huge demand for this type of program? Would you answer that? We've got to pause for a break.
Sure.
You're tuning in here on the Business Portal for this segment on trends analysis. And our topic for this episode is the global IT for the Philippine market. And with us is the principal from the Algeo Consulting from New York, none other than Mr. Karnik Menashan, And this is your host, Tony Casino. Do stay tuned for the concluding portion.